All right, good afternoon, everyone. I am here with our guest, Nancy Fox. And Nancy, where are you talking with us today? Where are you
I'm
at?
Los Angeles. Beautiful.
California girl.
I know. It's gorgeous here. Where are you?
I'm in San Francisco, so
Oh,
practically neighbors.
we're neighbors, right?
Yeah, great. Well, I just checked and we are live in the group. So, first, I just wanted to thank you for taking some time out of your day to talk to us millennials living the dream about your area of expertise, and that is networking.
Yeah. Well,
So,
also, aren't I a millennial too?
absolutely, I have this conversation so often. It's
And
a
so
mindset.
I am. Yeah, it's so funny. That's great. Okay, yes, I'm happy to chat with you. It's like one of my favorite topics.
Great. Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what makes you really an expert in millennial networking?
It's so funny. Well, first of all, I should tell you a little bit about my background because for those of you who can't imagine yourself like being a really great networker because it's not who you are, or it's not like you're introverted or something. I'm a natural introvert. I know it doesn't appear that way, but I really am. And I was in the corporate world for a really long time. I was the head of a number of marketing and design divisions for women's underwear companies for a long time before I started my business. Yeah. So for any of you women out there, I'm a bra expert. No kidding around. So when I go to parties, women are still asking me, what size bra should I wear? That's even a long time ago, but they still ask me. So anyway, I have been coaching and training and consulting for quite a while. And when I left my old career, everybody sort of knew me in my industry and I knew them. So networking was really easy, right? But when you start your own business or you're looking for a job, people don't know you and you're like a fish out of water and you don't know who to talk to or what to say. And you're really nervous. And I was one of those people just terrified. So my first experience with networking when I jumped ship was I went with a friend of mine to a networking event. She was very experienced at it, and an hour and a half later, we both came out of that event, and she had like a dozen business cards, and I had two. And I said, "Something's wrong with this picture. How do you do that?" Like, and she didn't do any talking. It was funny. She was just she was in conversations, but she wasn't talking. And I said, "How do you do that?" And come out with 12 business cards. So she sort of set me on the path of learning how to do it in a way that didn't feel salesy or smarmy or tacky. And I learned that the secret to being a great networker is stop thinking about what you're going to get out of it and how you're going to look good at a networking event. And it was really the first and most important thing is you have to retrain your brain to stop thinking about how you're going to sound, how you're going to look, if you're going to seem stupid, if no one's going to want to talk to you. It's all about you, but it's really all about them. And when I started to, every time I went into a networking event, I would actually stop, take a breath, and say, my job is to be curious and be surprised by what people tell me. And so when I got curious, it took a lot of pressure off me. I just stopped worrying about what I was going to get. And I started to really enjoy the conversations with people. And along the way, they got to see that I was interested in them and curious about them. And so they were naturally now starting to come toward me instead of away. And that was the first big secret.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I'm hearing from a lot of people, and one of the reasons why I wanted to bring a networking expert in is what do I need to say? How am I going to get people interested in me? What is the secret icebreaker? And I think what you just said, it's curiosity and getting interested in other people, and taking that stress off of yourself to think that you have to say the right things or be in the right places.
Right. It's not about you saying the right thing, it's about you asking in the right way and listening.
Love that. Totally agree. So maybe just taking one step back is We're talking now that like the goal of networking is maybe to get to know other people or to listen well. But why do you think networking is necessary, especially for millennials at this day in this day and age?
It's a really good question, because we're so accustomed to being connected. Um, I am as millennial as they come in this approach. I've built so many relationships now over the years, face to face, and I love being with people online almost as much, maybe more than in person. So, but I've paid my dues, and you have to learn how to have a conversation. That's number one. So here's why I think it's really important. Um, I don't care what you're doing in your life, whether it's job hunting or working with colleagues or building a business. Unless you're going to be doing like just working with yourself and there's going to be no one in your life, you're going to have to meet people. And I don't know any business that's completely only about you. Something's happening where you're doing something with other people, even if it's just having vendors or accountants that you work with or lawyers you work with, or, people who are going to help you with your technology or whatever. You have to work with people in some way. And if you don't learn how to get people to be willing to work with you, you're leaving a lot of money and opportunity on the table. So at whatever stage you're at and whatever age you're at, it's still the same thing. You're living in a world of people. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be on a stage. It doesn't mean you have to be a great talker. It doesn't mean any of that. You could be the most introverted person. If you learn how to ask great questions and smile and listen, you're a great networker. That's it. That's all it really takes, because eventually the conversation is going to be where people will stop talking and start asking you something about you.
Yeah. So networking really is like about being human and like doing your part in the world, maybe.
I also think that millennials, the perception is that you don't have to connect in real life, but you're doing it all the time. I mean, you're going into Starbucks, you're going into the store, you're going to the gas station. You might need help with, fixing your car. I mean, all of this, you're dealing with people at some point along the way. You have a banker, you have, if you need a loan. I mean, if you ever start a business, you're going to need to get financing or do something with your money, and you need to be able to talk to people. So, and if you're looking for a job, then, 80% of jobs are really not found through resume hunt, it's really through the network. So, and you never ever want to leave yourself in a place where you don't have a network that's being developed until you need it, because by then, people feel like you just want something from them.
Yes. Yeah. Networking really is should be a constant practice, right?
I wish
And
I could
like,
change the name of it though, because I think it turns people off.
yeah,
Like, just making friends would be better, something like that.
I totally agree with that. I think that, yeah, it's about being a human, making connections, whether or not you need something, because we are all in this together. Like whether or not you need a loan right now, or someone else that might need a loan someday, making the right connections and being like a real amicable person that can hold a conversation is critical for whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, even just think about this. A friend of mine is she is the head of an organization, but because she had a good network, when her husband got sick and he needed the right doctor, she reached out to her network, and you know what? She got him an appointment with the top doctor in his, particular area of need. She never would have gotten that without knowing the right people. He would have been on the waiting list way back then. So, you don't realize how much we really need to have, and that's why meeting the right people is critical.
Saves lives.
It doesn't it? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, no, truly. Yeah, yeah. So in your book, which I so appreciate, your very first tenet is that all networking is not created equal. And what we're talking about now, and something that I talk a lot about, is that networking is kind of a 360 game, and that you should be looking all around. Like, can you network with people like from your past, from your future, like, you know, all around you, there are people you can connect with. And although you do talk about like the importance of networking up, so can you talk a little bit about like why making, like you just said, the right connections is so beneficial?
Well, can I give two stories, actually?
Please.
Okay. So my first, how I really learned this was from my father, who never, like, he was really interesting. When I was a millennial of age, was in a dead end job and I just couldn't find my way out of it. And my father kept begging me to get another job. And he said he was a designer, a women's clothing designer, and he had a lot of connections because he kept going to all these shows. And he had a connection with a senior VP at another company who was the head of advertising, and he was chatting with him about me. And I lived in LA, and that guy lived in LA. My father begged me to have a meeting with, call him. And so he knew a senior VP of advertising at another company. Now, this company was an underwear company. I didn't even know about underwear. I didn't care about underwear. Nothing.
Did you wear underwear at the time?
I didn't even wear underwear at the time. I'm not kidding. In those days, we weren't wearing bras, so it was crazy. So anyway, he told me, he begged me, and I was rolling my eyes going, Dad, really? You know, like one of those. But I did call him. And because of him, I got a meeting with the head of sales of of that company. And in 10 minutes, I had a job, and it set me off onto the career of a lifetime. I mean, I had a great time for a long time. And it was that if my father had not known that head of advertising, I never would have gotten the job or even the interview. And it's amazing. So anyway, that was one lesson. And my friend, the friend that took me to my first networking event, when I looked at her contact list, in those days we called it a Rolodex, but it was actually in her Palm Pilot. If anybody's ever heard of that, there was this thing called the Palm Pilot, and you would scroll through the contacts. And one day, you know, she's just scrolling through, showing me about contacts, and I saw the name Tom Brokaw, and I said, wait a minute, stop. And I said, who is that? She says, that's Tom Brokaw. I said, like the real Tom Brokaw? And she said, yeah. I said, well, how do you know Tom Brokaw? She goes, I met him at a networking meeting. I mean, it's crazy, you know. So I'm a very big believer that you need to network up to meet the right people. If you start networking with people only at your level, which is a lot of what millennials tend to do, and they do it because they're comfortable and you like hanging out with each other. And I get it, it's good. And you also do know people at other companies, and that's great too. But if you don't know decision makers, and if you don't start learning how to meet decision makers, you're going to be behind the 8 ball, because the people you really need are people with great networks who have the influence to make decisions, to hire you, to do business with you, to recommend you, and they have clout. And you got to know people with clout. I don't care if you call it snobby, that's the truth. And what I see happening is a lot of younger people are hanging out at networking events. I watch them, and they're hanging out with each other, and they're not moving around the room. And I want to pull them and say, here, go talk to that guy with the gray hair, because he's making the decisions around here. Go. And they don't know what to say. But there's a way of having a conversation. They want to have conversations with you. They want to know a lot about what you think. And do you want to know why? Because you guys are influential now. You have so much clout that you could leverage. You have power just in the numbers of your generation, and they want to know what you think, how you buy, what decisions you're making, who you're hanging around with, how you're choosing, what social networks you're using, why you're using them, what you say. They want to understand you. You got a lot of clout, but you're not leveraging it.
Yeah. I just heard something. We have the largest buying power in the world right now. I'm hearing a little feedback. Sorry. So you're talking about like in person, millennials are making the mistake of just staying with the people that they know. And so I'm curious, how can we change that? Or how do we go to that guy with the gray hair in person, but also online? Because you probably see us hanging out with our 1,000 friends that we kind of know, like our Rolodex on as Facebook friends. So what are the steps that we can take to start, talking to those decision makers in person and online?
Great question. So before we even get to the what to do, I think that there is something that everybody, not just millennials, need to learn about the way they process information first. So what I mean by that, networking is all about connecting the dots in your head before you ever open your mouth. So, so Hanna, let's say I don't know you, and if I wanted to have influence with you, I would have to learn more about you and see if we had some common ground. So when you wanted me to come on work, chatting with you, you found out about me. You did the connecting the dots piece. You learned a little bit about me. You checked me out online. And by today, today we are so lucky because you can check everybody out online. And you know everything about them in like 3 seconds. Where a long time ago, you'd have to go to the library, like a library, and try to find stuff on people. And there was nothing. You had no way. You would have to actually take so much longer to find out about a person, and you couldn't build rapport quickly. So you can find out a lot about people on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, and then find out, what they're writing about, what they're interested in, a lot about their families, what their organizations they belong to. And then once you start to connect the dots in your own mind about what you could chat with them about or ask them about or see if there's any common ground, and it's the connecting the dots that I mean about what common ground do I have with this person? So my common ground, for example, with you guys is I watch you even if I never worked with any of you, I'm observing you at networking events, and that's a common discussion to have. So that's what I mean by connecting a dot. Somebody today called me from another part of the country, and she knew about me, but I didn't even know she knew about me. She connected the dots because she went online to find out about me and realized we had met before. And so she connected the dots. So it's about thinking about the connecting of the dots before you ever say anything. And then it's about asking really smart questions.
Asking smart questions. Yeah, I love that. I think we're doing this all of the time. Like we're creeping, we're liking people on Instagram, we're talking about whatever we saw, whatever clip just got posted in our news feed. We're going to restaurants where people are also eating. So we have so many commonalities that we're already engaged with. And so like you said, it's connecting those dots and setting yourself up to like align with other people. So yeah. And then I think probably the next step is that curiosity, which we talked about already.
I would like to actually demonstrate. So I'm really curious. You just mentioned this. So I'm listening for something. So Hanna, when you like something on Facebook or someone on Facebook, what makes you do that? Why do you like something? Like what prompts you to hit the like button?
Usually there's some sort of like emotional reaction, like that's cute or good for them, or I can relate. That's something I understand.
I often wonder about that. Like, why they like that? Were they excited by it? Sometimes they hit like, maybe they don't even mean anything by it. It's easy to hit the like button. But do you have a reason when you hit the like button?
It's not always conscious, I don't think.
See, so sometimes you're really liking something, and sometimes it's just an automatic reaction, right? But when you comment, that's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you comment on something?
I really have something to contribute or ask or, yeah.
Okay, there's a common, so like, let's say you are about to meet somebody before a networking event and you look them up on Facebook or on LinkedIn and you are watching their activity, you can make a comment about a comment, or you can ask a question about a comment, like I just did with you.
Yeah.
I'm curious, why do you do that? Like, why? How do you do that? How'd you figure that out? The how and the why questions are good ones. Or here's another one. Someone says something to you and you go, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. And then they'll go off and they'll talk. But then you got to listen.
Mm-hmm. I think all of those questions are so helpful to get to like the meat or the real, like how can I connect in a meaningful way with you? And a question that I encourage people to try to get to, it's not one you can lead with, but the question of, would you like some support with that? Or how could I help you with that? Instead of going out with like, this is my solution, this is what I offer. But like, I want, like, can I? Are you open to something that I might be able to offer or help you with?
Yes, they say that telling is selling. Yeah, and most of us don't like to be sold. We all want to buy, but we don't want to be sold, right? So telling is selling. So if you're asking somebody a question, you're not telling, you're expressing curiosity, and it's opening the door. The very connection you want to make is on the other side of the question.
Yeah. Got to ask those questions. I love this. So we're going over a lot of the questions I had for you, and I think you sort of touched on one of the mistakes you see millennials making is that they're networking just at their level to their sidelines. Are there other things you see maybe more in the online world as a mistake that millennials are making?
That's a whole other conversation, which I would love to talk to you guys about, because actually, if I really am honest, just between us people, us millennials, I prefer to network online today. Living in Los Angeles sort of did that for me. When I lived in New York, it was very easy to get around and you could go to a million networking events. But the first thing is I'm very targeted about who I want to network. So I make a decision about, I want to meet, let's say I want to meet marketing directors, or I want to meet sales managers or sales vice presidents, whatever. I make a decision about who I want to meet. And I do a search on LinkedIn, or I do some searching around on Google and all that. And then I generally like to connect with them on LinkedIn. Facebook is a little different. I pretty much connect with people on Facebook, unless I'm in a course or something where we're all connecting. I'm pretty much keeping Facebook for social, and I'm very careful. And I really encourage you guys, be really careful about what you post on Facebook or on Twitter. It's really, really important. Then what I'll do is I will do a lot of networking and meeting of people on LinkedIn, which is a whole other conversation. How to engage with people that you think are completely out of your realm. It's easy. You just need the right invitation, the right communication. And here's the beautiful thing. Most decision makers, they could be recruiters, they could be heads of department, they could be CEOs, they could be business owners, they could be laterals to you in other companies. They are managing their own social media accounts very often, which means that the gatekeepers are out. Not 100%, but to a great degree. So it's leverageable, big time. So do a lot of connecting there.
Yeah. So do you encourage people to just kind of spend some time scrolling on LinkedIn, Facebook, other, platforms that they have, and just sending like maybe those dots that they've connected? Like, I see this and that, it aligns with me. Or what do you say?
Yes, but I would do get some education about how to properly invite someone to connect with you so that they want to actually have a conversation with you. So for example, yesterday, I know, here's how it went. I spoke at an event about 3 years ago, and I really haven't networked with anybody in that organization since. But I noticed the organization got a new president that's starting in the year 2018, because LinkedIn lets you know when they get a new job. So I said, I know you don't know me, but I actually spoke at your organization a few years ago. And she happened to, on her LinkedIn profile, and this is really important, she said that she works with women in transition. As a coach, I work with women who are transitioning into a job, into their business. So I said to her, I spoke at your organization. Congratulations on your new role. It's really exciting. I'd love to connect with you because we actually serve the same market. And she said, great. And she said, I'd like to hear more about what you do. Please reach out to me. She gave me her email. I didn't ask her for it, but just the way I invited her and connected the dots in the message prompted her to, I didn't ask her, and it was great. So we're going to get to speak next week. And that's how it's very simple, but you have to really, as I said, connect the dots in your brain first, then you can communicate. Until you do that, you'll be probably leaving chips on the table.
Totally. Yep. It's that you're finding the dots and then approaching with curiosity, and probably less about saying the right thing because you didn't even ask. You just kind of put yourself out there. And when you have the right approach and you're human, you often get connected.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. And by the way, don't beat yourself up. It takes, people ask me this question all the time. How long will it take for me to build a really good, vibrant network? I could lie and say 3 months, but the really good network takes a couple of years to build, and then it builds on itself. And remember that the better the contacts you have and connections you have and can introduce other people to, the more value you have for them. So it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, and you said like when you changed industries, it was a whole new game. And so it's really a lifetime of networking, building relationships, and also fostering those relationships. Like you said, you might not need a doctor this week, but in 3 years you might. And so continuing to be that personable, connected, real person.
Yeah. And I know you're going to say it's hard work, but you want to tell me something that's worth having that isn't? I mean, seriously, if that's what you're going to focus on, then you're not going to have what you want. I don't care what it is. There's nothing on this planet that is easy. And anything that looks easy that's worth having, they're lying to you. It's just not true. Not true. Anything that I've ever either had myself or helped my clients have or seen around me, it is just worth the work.
And it's better together, right? To be trying to make things happen with the support of others.
Never do it alone. Totally better. And just having this opportunity is like, now we have a relationship that we didn't have before. We were chatting a little bit on Facebook, but this is a whole other deal. Oh, and that's the other thing. Now you can have a face-to-face meeting with somebody and not even get out of your car or out of your house. And it is like being, like if you had a cup of coffee and I have a cup of, this is a coffee date in my mind.
Yes, totally.
It's the greatest. It's really great. Yeah. So it's quite easy if just practice the basic principles, and that's about it. And then just keep doing it, and it grows.
Totally. We have so many resources and platforms and people available to us. It's just having that, connecting the dots and communicating. So super helpful. I think we have a few action steps already as far as just, researching people that you want to get to know. Even if you think they're out of reach, they're still people. So, approaching them with curiosity, having connected those dots, like you said. But do you have any other sort of action steps that we could take today to start building, this community or network, whatever, friends, whatever you want to call it?
Download my free Icebreaker tip sheet, number 1. It's not perfect. I haven't, it's not the perfect thing, but it's not even, it has the first question and then it has a whole bunch of after questions that you can ask people to keep the conversation going. And so download that. We'll give you the link in a second. It's free. And a lot of my colleagues and clients, they keep it with them before they ever go to a networking event. They look at, they get a new set of questions so they, can have sort of a little script in their head before they go in there. Definitely you must follow up after the networking, because if you don't follow up, then what's the point? Nothing will happen.
You'll get another follower on Instagram or something, right?
Well, there's a lot of ways to follow up, and I even have a tip sheet on that. So I have a tip sheet about 33 ways to follow up with people. So
wow. Awesome.
You can find that on my website too.
Cool. Yeah, we'll definitely link to all of that. Those tangible, exact questions. How do you break the ice? are so helpful, especially as we're, getting a little bit uncomfortable putting ourselves in spaces that aren't just, the people that we know. Yeah.
More things you can do. Smile and put your hand out first and introduce yourself first. Be a little proactive. It'll break the ice for both of you and takes the heat off of them, and they'll feel very relieved.
Yeah. Awesome. So we've got some action steps to start with. Definitely going to link to those questions and freebies that Nancy just mentioned. And we're also here to answer your questions. We just talked a lot in pretty broad terms about what networking is, how it can benefit you, the mistakes to avoid. But yeah, if and when you have more questions about expanding your network and making sure that you've got the right people in your court, knowing who you are and what you're about, drop either of us a note. Nancy's in the group because she's a millennial-minded go-getter that is living her dreams and helping others do the same. So let's keep this going. This is even just a platform for some of you to start talking. Maybe there's people in the group you've been seeing that you could go connect some dots or send a Facebook message. Not painful.
Right.
I think that, you sort of mentioned this too, Nancy, that networking can get a bad rap and the name is kind of puts us off a little bit, but we're doing this all the time. And so having some more intention and strategy is super beneficial. I also have a little freebie for you all more about the intention behind networking and how you can set your mindset up thinking about like you're a real person and it's not about you, taking that stress off of having, like the right things to say. You'll get Nancy's questions, so you do have some of the right things to say, and also just keeping in mind that it's not about you. It's really about a curiosity mindset. So I've got something to help you with that as well. Any parting thoughts, Nancy?
I think also just the last piece is like, remember to listen. And now we're in a very distracted society. I know that, your smartphone is pulling at you. You have to stay with the conversation and tune the distractions out. It's difficult for all of us, whether you're a millennial or not a millennial. We are now pretty much, we're attached to this. And we've got tons of stuff binging and clinging and, all these different sounds hitting us all the time. You've got to pay attention to people or it comes off very phony. And the last thing you want to do is be phony about this.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's a really good pun. I don't think phony.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't be phony. I didn't get that. Oh, God, Hannah, you are good. I'm stealing that, girl. All right. I'm stealing that. Do not be phony.
Don't be phony. Really, I don't know.
Yeah, pay attention to don't be phony. It's awful. Like when you're not, you see somebody's eyes, like, at their phone when you're talking to, oh my God, it's awful. So don't do that.
Yep. That's you talked about one of your tenets, that not all networking is created equal. One of my tenets is be a real person. So I definitely agree with that. I think we can kind of wrap up for today. Again, we'll drop Nancy's freebies so you can get those questions. We'll drop my freebies so you can get some support with mindset. And we are real people who like to talk. So yeah, go ahead.
For anybody in the group that is viewing this session, please link with me on LinkedIn. You can see a lot about how I do stuff and you'll get ideas and you'll see, my connections and you'll be seeing my posts about how I leverage LinkedIn. And it's really a great tool. So definitely I invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. You'll look for, there probably are a bunch of Nancy Foxes, but my company is the Business Fox. And so if you search LinkedIn, the Business Fox, you'll see it. It'll come up.
Awesome. So generous today with your time and your wisdom and your freebies and your connections. So appreciate it, Nancy. And I have a feeling, this is just the beginning. We're going to follow up and keep these rooms working.
About a particular networking. I just got one in my group today from somebody who said, how can I leverage my networking? I want to get marketing clients. And I gave her some tips and, she was trying to figure out who to speak to. before you go to an event, try to check out the attendee list if you can find it. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Amazing.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We will be in touch, everyone. Have a great rest of your Thursday.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Goodbye,
you.
everybody.